So today we are going to present manage spends and foster growth, wherein we are going to explain the new strategies for the post-COVID resurgent growth. So our today's presenter is Shabir Imani. Shabir is an industry veteran and renowned P2P automation expert. He has been in the industry since last 30 years. With immense experience in spend management domain, Shabir offers practical and implementable ideas to better manage procurements, control the corporate spending, reduce the processing costs, and help companies save. Shabir is also one of the founder and directors at Expensive. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shabir. So, Shabir, over to you. I'm just stopping my screen, and over to you for the webinar.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dipesh. Like I said, it's a pleasure. I think it's the first time we have had a webinar where we have had to limit the number of people who are coming in because of the excellent response we had. We are absolutely thrilled. I want to thank all of you. Good afternoon to most of you. For some of you, it may be a good morning or a good evening, since we are having people from so many different countries joining us today. And let me start by sharing my screen. And so I hope you all can see my screen here.
Shabir, the screen is visible.
Excellent, excellent. So, you know, one of the thoughts that I had is that we are lucky that we are, talking about, we are talking about something which is related to situation of, fostering growth. If somebody had told us maybe a year or a little more than a year back that we would be having a seminar which is going to talk about fostering growth, they would have said, hey, give me a break. We need to look at it first in terms of what we need to do right now. So, let me start by presenting what do we mean by getting to a phase where we are talking about foster growth. And here I'm going to present a McKinsey framework some of you may be familiar with. So the first phase when, anything hits us, and here we are talking in the context of COVID, is something which is react. Yeah. So react is almost like a knee-jerk reaction, as we call it, which you do when you find that suddenly something unexpected has happened. That happens to us as individuals. That also happens to us as organizations. And I'm sure all of your organizations went through some of this. The next stage of this entire process is respond. Yeah. And respond is when if you were an individual or if you were an organization, you have taken a deep breath. You have accepted the fact that something like this has happened, and now, what is it that you want to do? And since I'm talking about personal as well as this thing, for those of you who are still a little unsure about the difference between react and respond, and those of you who are married, all I can say is that react is when you get into trouble with your spouse, and respond is when you kind of are wiser and you decide to respond to it in a better way. So that's the difference between react and respond. And a lot of us went through this first fear phase of react and trying to, quickly understand what is happening. Once we understood it a little bit more, we decided what we want to do as far as respond is concerned. And then I would say that after about 1 year or so of COVID is when we got into something like 1.5 years, depending on where you were as an organization. We went into this recover phase where we say, hey, you know what, this is going to continue for a while. Business has to go on. Let's see what is it that we can do in order to do it. And a lot of analysts started calling this as the new normal, where a lot of things were different. People couldn't come to office. Traveling was not possible. A lot of meetings went virtual. All of those kind of things. Supply chains were getting disrupted. All of that was part of what we call the recover phase. And then today, we can proudly hold the flag to say that we are just entering the resurgence phase of this thing. And why is this framework important? Why is it important to analyze? I'm sure some of you realize that the way you and your organization were in the react phase versus in the respond phase versus in the recover phase were very different. And by the same logic, it is important that as we move to the resurgence phase, we act as individuals who are managers in organizations, senior management in organizations, as well as organizations itself. We really take the kind of steps, and this is what we are talking about as the next normal. This is what is emerging, and this is the new normal, the next normal that we are creating for ourselves. So this is the context in which I'm talking about, the resurgence phase, and how is it that you should, as an organization, react to when it comes to spend management. The strange thing is that even as we talk about resurgence, this World Economic Forum study talks about the different kind of risk: economical, societal, technical, geopolitical, and you can see that there are a whole lot of, except environmental risk, which doesn't feature in the top few here, but there are a whole lot of risks which are there for organizations. I'm not going to look at each one of them, and it will be slightly different for each one of you depending on the kind of business you are, or it depends on the geography from or the country that you come from. But each one of us has this, which means we aren't in a all-out bullish phase. A whole lot of things like pricing of commodities that is happening, the Russia-Ukraine war that is happening, the zero COVID policy in China and the impact that it is having again on the world economy. A lot of those things are still, major factors which are at play, which means it is not a unilateral bull phase, but it's a phase where we need to go ahead and create some kind of a balance. And that is what makes how you decide to handle the resurgence phase very important for the organizations that you're representing. So, whenever we talk about this kind of a thing, and the prediction now is that we are going to face a lot more disruptions. We have already seen that after the COVID scare, we had the Russia war, we have had the China disruptions, which are happening. There are new things like the inflation on the commodities, which is boiling. Now interest rates are going up. So it probably is not going to be a smooth ride all the way. And therefore, it is important that you decide what kind of an organization do you want to be. The traditional thing used to be, we need to be robust. So robust is like, if you were to take a metaphor of a tree, it's a strong tree, which how much ever the wind blows, the tree will not bend. And therefore it is called a robust tree. And if you are an organization, then a robust organization is the one which is able to weather these kind of disruptions and storms which come its way. Or do you want to be a resilient organization? And there was a lot of talk of resilience during the COVID phase. And resilience is that, no, the tree does bend a little, but it bends so that it can come back into shape, which means it has the ability to adapt to what is happening around it. And once the situation gets a little better, then the tree can come back and continue to do what it is supposed to do as a this thing. So do you want to be a resilient organization? Or, Nassim Taleb has introduced this phase called anti-fragile. So anti-fragile is taking the whole thing to the other extreme. Does your organization actually thrive by virtue of what is happening to other companies, by virtue of the kind of opportunities that you are able to stop? That whenever these kind of storms or weather situations or disruptions come in, you are actually able to do faster, grow faster, do things better, do better than your competition, grow at rates which were not possible earlier. So it is important to decide which kind of organization. What's common across all the 4 stages, which I earlier talked about. They're sometimes called the 4 R's as the stages of react, respond, recover, and research, as well as across all of these 3 characteristics. And obviously, there is some kind of a thing that you want to move at least towards being resilient and then build in capabilities to be anti-fragile. But across all of this, there are dimensions of spend management which are there. Like at a simple level, if you wanted to be a robust organization, you would have excellent financial reserves. If you wanted to be a resilient organization, then you would build in some of the adaptability in your organization so that when things change, you're able to do it faster. Whereas an anti-fragile organization would probably have agility and quickly being able to reconfigure teams to take advantage of whatever are the new situations coming up. But all of this have a spend management implication, which is there across all of them. So as this cartoon very nicely says, whatever the business you are in, whatever the stage of business you are in, how you are spending your money, and therefore how much of the money is usefully being used, so whether you are Robin Hood or you are the world's largest organization, for all of them, where that money is going, keeping track of spends, expenses, overheads, all of that kind of becomes very important for organizations to go ahead and understand. Now, here is a very interesting, thing from Harvard Business Review. So most of you would right now agree that, yeah, we went through this phase and we are doing it. And therefore, it would seem logical that people would want to go ahead and adjust. And yet a 2022, survey by Harvard Business Review says that less than 1/3 of organizations have implemented the hard decisions. Remember, I'm talking about implemented the hard decisions for even the recover phase. And barely a fifth, actually less than a fifth, have done the transformations that are required for the resurgence phase. And for some of us, it would come as a surprise because on an average, we know that people who work in corporate organizations are smart people, are intelligent people, and therefore, one would have thought that people would go ahead and be able to do whatever is required in order to take care of something like this. So, let's bring in our next, this thing of the Mentimeter, this thing. So I have my screen open here. How do I move this to full screen? Is there a way? If you can all go and click
on the present, Shabir, on the top right, present. Yeah.
Present, is it? Okay. Yeah. So I want you all to go to your Mentimeter link, and I'm asking a very simple question. What do you think has been the level of response of your organization to the rapid changes beyond the must-dos? We are no longer talking about the must-dos like work from home, better internet, little more applications moved so that they can be accessed from anywhere. Beyond that, so I want you to start putting in your responses. And as you can see on my screen live, you are able to see as people are putting in their responses right now. So a lot of people right now seem to be favoring medium as the level of response. Can some more of you do it so that we get a little more colorful graph? But please be honest, the answers that you give are anonymous. Even if I want to know who has answered what, Mentimeter doesn't allow me to do that. So you're fully assured that you can give an honest answer and it cannot be traced back to you. You're truly talking about what is it that has been the response of your organization. Yeah. So if we are beginning to see some people talk in terms of low as the level of response to people, some more, if you can do it, this makes the first time I attended a webinar with the Mentimeter link, I found it fascinating. So yeah, we are getting some people who actually think that the organization response has been high. Interesting to see that the graph is already getting a little more colorful in the way it looks. Great. So more of lows, medium becoming a little smaller, some highs coming into. Excellent. Great. I'll you continue doing this. I'll come back to this chart. I would have loved to spend a little more time on this. Unfortunately, we want to make sure that we use the time well. So I'll go ahead with my presentations. So the question that comes up, even if you see the kind of data which has come up here, it kind of, the number of people who have had high response was less than 1/5, pretty much what Harvard Business Review was talking about. The last I saw it was 20%, and therefore, so why are organizations not making changes fast enough? Is it like I said, we are talking about smart people, we are talking about intelligent people, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Adam Grant. If you're not, I strongly suggest you read all his books, Givers and Takers, Think Again. And I think Think Again book gives us this thing which talks about how people are averse to rethinking on whatever it is that they have as current beliefs and opinions. So what it says is there is a strong resistance to rethink our opinions and beliefs, which means if you had certain beliefs about how the organization or the management team had a opinion or a belief about how an organization should respond, as circumstances changes, there is a resistance to change it. And part of that lies in the fact that evolutionary, right from the time we were living in caves, we were wired to kind of be clear about our views and hold on to our views. It was almost like a way of protecting our identity, because we started believing that whatever were our beliefs was part of our identity. And interestingly, it has got nothing to do with intelligence. Do you have an extremely intelligent people can be low on an ability to rethink, whereas a person of even average intelligence would have the ability to experiment, rethink, re-examine their beliefs, and come out with new beliefs. So just the fact that people in organizations do tend to be smart and intelligent doesn't automatically mean that things will go better. And we do have two aspects: confirmation bias. If we have a particular belief, then we keep seeking out evidence to reconfirm that belief. Try that in whatever. I know Philippines recently went through a presidential election, and if you were on the side of one of the people, how every news which came which talked about your favorite candidate being good, you kind of said, see, I always said so. And then there is something which is called desirability bias, which is that when I want a particular outcome, then I try to reinterpret all information that I get as favorable to the opinion that I have. And this is something which, as I've talked with CFOs and chief procurement officers in organizations, I've seen this at play in terms of when they talk about how it is not easy to get going to the next level on their response. And sometimes the way organizations are designed, even one rejection. So if 6 people need to say yes, even if one no puts a brake on an idea, and therefore the ability to take risk in organizations is low. Whereas in resurgence, as you all know, the payoffs are linked to the risks that you take. Which moves to interesting idea, which is building on the same theme of how we don't rethink. And some of you will see this graph, and I'm sure you will have a smile on your face, because I've seen it with so many people. What are the reasons people give why they don't want to change? That'll never work here. Yeah, that's not what my experience has shown. That's too complicated. Let's not overthink it. And of course, the biggest of them all, that's how we have always done it. And another thing which we sometimes use is, if it's not broke, don't touch it. So we have these pet phrases which we have learned maybe years and years back. How applicable they are today, we are not sure, but we go ahead and what we must remember is, unless you have a culture change where people are willing to rethink it. Yeah. So when we talk about how a company like Kodak or Nokia or BlackBerry, we say, oh, the company didn't do enough. Remember, it's always the people. It's not the company. These are companies which were doing very well, but started doing because the culture and the ability to rethink, adapt, be agile to whatever is happening was low. The interesting thing is that most people agree that we are in a world which is changing faster than it was earlier. And in that kind of a world, probably even more than intelligence, the ability to rethink one beliefs is something which is more critical to success, because that's what will allow you to adapt, and that's what will allow you to quickly, take benefit of whatever are the changes which are occurring, rather than playing defense to whatever is happening. How much scope for debate and disagreement is there in your team? So these are just some things where in organizations where you cannot challenge a senior or even a set of peers, you cannot debate and have disagreements openly. Yeah, are things. And in Asia, we tend to have this a little bit more than we tend to have it in the West out here. And if you just want to see how this plays out, you have to think in your country how your political leaders initially responded to the pandemic. No, it will not come to my country. That's an old belief which was, oh, even if it comes, it'll be just like the flu. No, we have a good medical system in place, so it will not happen. These are all examples of old beliefs which were not re-examined in view of the new situation. So I want you all to, it's very easy for me to cover a lot of content, but I want you to take this opportunity to just think a little and ask yourself, how adaptable is your organization? I was wondering whether to put it as a Mentimeter question, then I decided not to do it. But I want you, because that will be your takeaway, So I have 2 questions for you, which I want you to think through. How do you rate your own organization on this ability to rethink, change beliefs, move on to new things, take risks, all of those things which are going to be required in resurgence? And what would you do to contribute to this process of rethinking? What can you as an individual, you may be very senior, you may be mid-level, whichever level you are in the organization, What is it that you can do? Those are two things. If you think through, there'll be something which you will be able to take out of this webinar and apply to your own organization as you go ahead. Let me move to the next part of this process, which is related to what I call some useful tips for spend management during resurgence. So from a spend perspective, what do you do? Since that is my area of expertise, I thought I would guide you on a few of these things and this thing most. So first of all, you have to ask yourself, how important is spend management for you? If you're a company with fantastic margins, you don't need to worry your gross margin, net margin, the kind of things that I've written here. Maybe spend management is not the most important thing for you. You can prioritize a little lower. But if you are in a stage where, say, your net margin is less than 10 to 12%, yeah, it's important to go ahead and focus on spend management as a high this thing. It's important to understand that if your business is a 10% margin business, yeah, and you bring about a 10% reduction in spend, to get the same profit, you would have to do a 90% increase in sales. A lot of you here are finance guys, so I don't need to show you the calculation for this. But the bottom line of this is putting effort into spend management pays big time in terms of going ahead and increasing your profitability. Spend management is also important because it has a direct impact on your cash outflow. And remember that cash is the lifeblood of organizations. Even if you're profitable, but if you're in a cash flow problem, then that's not right. So spend management, if implemented properly, can also help you with managing your cash outflow management, and therefore what is the kind of cash that you have inside the company for doing the things that you want to do. There is this whole concept of spend under management. We are not going to have time to do it, but later on, if you want, you'll have an opportunity to interact with my team on a one-on-one basis, and they can talk about it. But how do you get more and more of? There's a concept in spend management called bringing more and more of your spends under management, and there are levels of spend under management that you can go for, and it's a maturation process. So you have to go through it slowly, but it would help to bring more of your spends, what is called under management. An often overlooked area is the cost of processing whatever it is that you're doing. And I've seen that in certain kinds of organizations, say if you are an organization which is mainly into commodities, and therefore, the scope for reduction in prices and all of that may be limited, the cost of processing can offer huge savings to you to go ahead and do it. And for that, of course, you would need to see how to standardize your processes, how to make the processes better, how to, at the first step, automate them, at the next step, go ahead and digitalize those processes. How much data do you get as analysis on the different type of spends that you have and how their composition is changing over a period of time? And therefore, which are the ones you should focus on if you are really intent on bringing this? With most organizations, they have very good systems for revenue analysis, not very good for spend analysis. What areas of spend are you measuring now? As they say, what you measure is the result you get. So if you put a thing called top line growth, your organization will go in a particular way. If you talk about profitability, it will go in a particular way. Even within profitability, is it short term, long term, will determine the behavior of people. So what are you measuring? How are you measuring it? How well are you measuring it? What is the frequency? And most importantly, for each kind of spend and its reduction, is there somebody in the organization who has an accountability? Sometimes that is called a cost culture in the organization. So yes, cultural aspects become very important. What are the controls you have in place for the overall spend, as well as each specific kind of spend, which is important for you, which you may have got either from your analytics or you may have got from this measuring and this thing. Now, what are the controls that you want to put in place related to spend management, overall spend, as well as specific spends which are important for you? And one important thing which often gets overlooked, and when we start working with organizations, we find is, for example, when we talk to mid-size organizations, anything which involves spend flows all the way to the top of the organization. With the result, the person is every day signing, say, 60, 70 vouchers. He can't focus on the important ones, but it gives a false sense of, so the approval matrix that you have for organizations, can you have a rules base and an approval matrix where different levels of organizations can approve different kinds of spends? There is difference in the way CapEx is approved from OpEx. There is a difference in the way larger spends are approved from the smaller spends. So this approval matrix is again something which I would recommend that you look at in your organization And remember that everything floating to the top is not a great approval matrix as far as this is concerned. So these are 9 tips which would help you for spend management during resurgence. Similarly, 9 actions required by you. Some of them are spend related, but specific actions which you would need to take. Please relook at all your processes and controls. Yeah, this is sometimes also called process transformation, system transformation, digital transformation, whatever it is that you want to talk about and what is relevant to you as an organization. Stop and look at all your processes, because at the end of the day, what the organization does is nothing but a set of processes. And if you want to ensure that you're on top of them, then you will need to have controls in place out there. What COVID has also taught us is the importance of centralization of certain things by decentralization of some others, because employees were working from anywhere, they couldn't come to an office. And both centralization and decentralization needs to be decided for work and for controls, which means you could do decentralized work and centralized control, or any of the other. You could decentralize work and centralized control, any of the 4 possibilities. If you think of it like 2 quadrants with work and control as they're the 4 quadrants, then you would get this. It is important to, too many organizations, like I said, this is not a phase of a bull run, where you can just go all out. So it is important to do it. And what you would find relevant is a lot of times when private equity investors or venture funds invest in a company, they ask them to go for a spend management solution, because they know management is going to be so focused on top line growth that they are going to forget to control spends and also protect the bottom line as part of that. So that balanced focus is something which becomes important for you. Spend risk management, that spends do not spiral out of control. So this is again, when there is too much focus on top line, etc., your spends can spiral out of control unless you have the right risk management practices in place. For example, proactive budget control, which means the system tells you if you're going to be exceeding your budgets. And the reason why this is important is a phase of resurgence is a phase when organizations need to invest a lot. And you are going to face a lot of capital demands in this new investment cycle. Unless you know that you are on top of your spends, you will not allocate capital demands properly. And remember, one way of looking at strategy is nothing but how you assign your resources, and capital being one of the important resources along with people. See what you can do and be prepared for this next investment cycle which is coming in. Plug the wastages and leakages. This is obvious. Prevent the future ones, as well as have a mechanism for looking at current wastages and leakages, because one of the things that was in that worry diagram of the World Economic Forum was that with work from home, frauds can increase considerably, both vendor fraud as well as employee fraud. And that's one of the leakages that is there. And how do you want to take care of it? How do you move to new level of audit and governance? Yeah. So audit and governance become again far more important as organizations are allowing employees to work from anywhere, and other paper-based processes are moving to digital processes. Audit and governance becomes very important. And for those of you who are from finance, think of it in 2 terms. One is, today, the better your governance, the higher is your price earning multiple that you will get. And it will help you just prevent a lot of grief which can come in if you don't have the right kind of audit and governance processes in place. Yeah, when I talked about that robust, resilient, and anti-fragile aspects, I talked about how adaptability and agility are very important. Are your processes, are your teams really adaptable and agile? Can talent be deployed in different ways to take advantage of different situations which are there? How are systems and processes helping you to go ahead and do that? So make sure that even the applications that you buy are adaptable and agile, and hence you are able to take full benefit of it. It's going to be important to think about people. I think one of the biggest challenges we are going to face going ahead is going to be the talent challenge. Yeah, you're going to have fewer people. It's going to be more difficult to get talent. Talent is going to get more expensive. Good talent is going to become extremely expensive. You want to make sure that your good people are not wasting their time doing routine repetitive tasks, and talent is used instead for growth initiatives and other improvements in the organization, rather than doing just the routine work, which sometimes I've seen people being wasted with this kind of a work. And the last thing that I want to talk about in this 9 actions is you relook at your systems. And this is that same rethink or think again, this thing that both the assumptions on which your current systems are based and the requirements which they had been designed for addressing, they've both changed for your organization, and therefore it is important for you to go ahead and relook at the kind of systems. And since I'm talking about systems, and since we are an IT organization, I'm going to talk to you a little about approach to IT systems for this resurgence phase if you really want to foster growth. So the first thing is, like I said, talent is going to be your biggest problem. You want people to be involved, you want people to feel autonomy, and therefore the old thing of somebody like the IT team or somebody at the top taking a decision on the kind of systems that are used will no longer work. You will have to have the team feel a sense of ownership about what it is that they are doing. And therefore, when you're selecting your systems, make sure a wide variety of users, the key stakeholders, not just the top managers, but even people 1 or 2 levels below that get involved in that. And this will involve a number of things. One, it ensures that instead of buying large behemoth applications, which though they look integrated, they later on give problems, you start with best of breed applications which meet the user's need. And when they've bought a system which meets their needs, the organization can drive accountability with those users out here. So this best of breed is an important movement which is happening in applications. So we are moving away from just integrated applications where everything comes in one box. With integration technology getting better, we are moving back to best of breed application for each area that we are looking for. User interface and user experience is emphasized. Earlier it was about does the system have the necessary features? And that is the main thing that people were looking at. Today, you will have to look at user interface and user experience for your users. You are already talking about customer interface, customer experience. Same thing for users now, because talent is becoming very, very, very important. This will not only ensure quick adoption, but it will also ensure that your agility is higher because you're not spending too much on training. When there's a churn or new people come in, you are able to get them to use the system. The ideal kind of a scenario would be people need no training at all and they are up to speed. This thing which with Gen Z coming into the workforce, that is something which is possible. And the third aspect, which again, analysts like Gartner are talking about, is hyper automation. Yeah, where they are saying, allow users to take decisions and go beyond the traditional finance, lens of looking at everything in terms of payback considerations. Even if something in the short term doesn't give you the required paybacks, the more you have automated and digitalized things, the better it is going to be. And this whole thing is part of, ensuring that you're utilizing your talent, you're making people part of the decision-making process in terms of the kind of systems that you are looking for. For some of you, you may already be doing it. For some of you, you may be very far away from it. But again, I want you to think about what is it that you can do in this regard. Move to the cloud. I still see some pockets of resistance in Asia on moving to the cloud. We address the US market also. And the assumption when we start the meeting is that that the application is going to be in the cloud. I mean, if you actually told them that this would be in premise or something like that, they would stop talking to you right away. So I think organizations in Asia need to move to the cloud, see the possibilities, see the kind of tools that are available, which you can utilize and get great benefits out of cloud, including reducing your fixed costs. So one of the ways in which organizations get more agile is what I call, from a finance perspective, variabilizing your cost. So moving your fixed cost to a variable kind of a cost is what I'm calling, and cloud is a great way of variabilizing those costs. Some form of record keeping, may be necessary for you, especially if you're a manufacturing organization. But, again, there's a great book called Necessary But Not Sufficient on this area, and it definitely is not sufficient. So you need to go beyond just capturing the transactions into some of the things like process management, digital transformation, analytics, which I talked about earlier. This is an important one. Move from intra-organization to inter-organization systems, which means so far most of your systems are inside your organization. They don't connect to your value chain. Now you want systems like vendor portals, like RFP, digital RFP through, can be done. Vendor empanelment processes, which happen digitally and through portals. So move to this. And one of the biggest trends that is happening right now, and I would go so far as to say that probably all the Fortune 500 companies have gone ahead and done it. And this is a concept which again was introduced by Gartner, is the concept of moving to composite applications. So no longer are we talking about ERP being the main system. Yes, ERP is the record keeping system or the transaction processing system, but you need procure to pay, you need order to cash, you need sourcing, you need travel and expense. All of these systems are moving out and becoming independent systems in terms of the way they grow. So these are some ideas in terms of fostering growth and moving forward from an IT perspective, which I want you all to think through and decide how you want to apply some of this to your organization. Whenever we have done these kind of seminars and webinars in the past, people have told us, we love the concept, but if we could also see what a spend management system is actually like and how it can help us achieve some of the things that you have talked about. So today today is the first time we are using the opportunity to maybe give you a very quick look at our application. So I'm going to take about 10 minutes to quickly walk you through the application and give you some idea. Important things to remember: your application must have a mobile usage. Mobile changes dynamics of how people use it. It's pretty much like, how you use your TV changes when you have a remote. This is more than that if it's possible, but yes, it is important to do that. So I've taken, you could create vouchers. You could go ahead and approve your vouchers through a mobile application. You could go ahead and track status of where your vouchers are through a mobile application. You could know their status. You can see some of them are ticked and some of them are not yet ticked, which means they are in approval. Some of them are still being edited. So there is this pencil mark, which is out here. If there was anyone which was a rejection, you would have seen it in red. It changes the way you work completely, where you work, how you work, it changes that. So mobile app is one very important part. Another very important thing which we have introduced in our application based on what we thought would bring agility into organizations is making approvals possible through emails. So this is actually a purchase order which has come in an email to the person with all the details which are relevant to the approver, so that the approver does not need to log into the system before they can approve. They are anyway on the email, and you can see that you can even approve and reject from the email directly. If you reject, then you can go ahead and put in your comments. It says rejection comments. So this is like, how do you approve a PO? Similarly, a vendor invoice, when it comes to you, you can go ahead and approve the vendor invoice throughout here. It's giving you all the details. It is giving you where it has come from, what is the amount of money that is being spent on it. All that information is available here. Let me, go to the live application and see if I can, show you the live application here. Yeah, great. So what you are seeing here are the various areas of the expensing application. I'm not going to be able to show you all of them, but yes, there is travel and expense, there is asset, there is strategic sourcing, and there is supplier portal, what I was telling you for moving your systems to intra-organization. I'm going to be able to show only one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and show you one of the applications, which is the procure to pay application is what I'm going to be able to show to you. So let's get into it. So the first thing that you see out here, this is Action Desk. So it says you are, Ganpati Sami, this is the date, you have logged into this system, and this is my approval desk or my action desk. So these are all the vouchers which are pending for you, shown at one place, nice, colorful, easy to use. Remember what I was telling you about user interface and user experience. It is showing you the thumbnail of the different documents. There is a whole lot of information like who is this purchase acquisition from, what is it from, what is the amount involved, what is the number of days that it has been waiting for approval out here. Similarly, you can see for purchase acquisitions, for purchase orders, all of those are available here. If you like to see your traditional view of this in terms of rows and columns, you can see it here. This thing, if you are an approver and you want to approve more than one thing simultaneously, you just select the ones and you say approve at one shot, and it will go ahead and do it. Also, because this is your action desk, if you want to go back, you say, hey, didn't I approve a similar purchase order last week? Well, you don't need to ask somebody to get you a piece of paper. You just go here and see, or if there was something that you had sent back at that point in time, you are able to see it. Let me also quickly show you how work can be made really easy for people. So this is creating a purchase requisitions. Instead of opening a form, all it does is there's a wizard here. It says there are 3 steps. It says, what do you want? I start typing in here of what is it that I want to do. So I type and automatically the type ahead comes. So I select yes, laptop. It has taken this. If I want to change the quantity, I can change the quantity to 2. It asks me, what is the delivery date? I say, can I get it the last Monday of this month? And I say, proceed. It has gone to the number 2 step. Why? So I have said, well, I need it for a new team member who has joined. Excellent. This thing, it is asking me to check it out if this is all okay. I think it is okay. And I say, yeah, create purchase requisition. And you can see that in the time it would have taken you, if this was a manual process, to go out and get your purchase requisition form to fill up, the system has finished it. It has filled a lot of details, including profit center, cost center, quantity, what is the expected rate. So therefore, what is the expected value? All of that, is already filled here. If there was a suggested vendor that you want to send it to, you can go ahead and send it to them, and they would be able to go. And that's how quickly, 30 seconds to create a purchase requisition. And remember, you can also do this through so let's say we have created a purchase requisition, and now it is moved to the procurement team, and the procurement team wants to go ahead and create a purchase order for you. So how do they go about, kind of creating a purchase order from, so I say create purchase order with PR out here, and then it is asking me to go ahead and select, enter all the details that I want out here. If I had ready this thing, you can give rate cards out here, which are available, and it becomes very easy for you to do that. So let's just go back to this thing of create PO. Let's do it in a slightly different way this time. So this is if you want to fill up the entire form, you can go ahead and do it. Otherwise, I can say, view all PR out here. I can select the PR from which I want to go ahead and create, and say create PO. Again, less than 30 seconds, a lot of information has already been taken in. You can see items have also been taken in. It is also telling you the purchase order quantity, purchase requisition quantity was 10, out of which 5 is ordered. 3 more is something which is required. Out here, you can add attachments to this. You can add text. Your terms and conditions are in a lot of detail. It almost is like a contract, not a PO. And this is editable by you to go ahead and do it as part of controls. You also want to make sure that they put other evaluated vendors and what was their amount, their remarks. All of that is information which is available to you easily for you to go ahead and do that. So this is that whole thing of creating a PO. Let me show you how quick it is to create an invoice if you want against this. So you say create invoice with PO, you select a vendor. Again, the type ahead is something which goes ahead and comes here, and you select this particular vendor and you say, yes, I want to work with this vendor. When you select a vendor, it will only show you those POs of that particular vendor which are pending this thing, and the system has already taken all the details. So you can see it has taken a whole lot of PO details. It has taken type of account, all of those details you can enter. We also have this interesting feature called checklist, where for each item type, you can say some things people should check before the invoice is given for approval. And again, this is a 4-step process through which you move, which makes it very easy for you to go ahead and do it. Important thing is, once you've created a PR, you don't create a PO from scratch. Once you've created a PO, you don't create an invoice. Same thing applies when it comes to the GRN. Let me also show you the similar approval desk for the invoice authorization part, which is the accounts payable automation part. So it is telling me there are 74 invoices pending and there are some credit notes pending. You can see nice colorful. It is showing those red ones are due in less than 7 days, yellow one in 14 days, and the blue ones are where you have a little more time. It says how long it is pending, giving you the name of the vendor even in the thumbnail out here, and what are the items. If I want to actually see this particular invoice, all I need to do is go here and click on it, and this particular invoice opens up. If I want to say, hey, this invoice is against this PO, right? Let me see this PO. Everything that you need to see is available right out there. So it is showing you the purchase order against which this invoice has come in. You want to know if there is a vendor advance which was paid, no, it was not paid, have some invoices come in from the vendor against this. It will show you this, hey, who approved this PO? So, oh, I get it that this was approved by Ganpati Swami, it was created by so-and-so person. So all those details are available to you right out here. I want to draw your attention to this part, which we call the scrutinizer. It puts a green and red flag so that business approvers as well as finance approvers find it easy to know where to focus. Yeah. So are there invoices pending for approval from this vendor? So that could there be double invoicing? And if any of them have a red flag, so green flags are ones I don't need to focus on. If there is a red flag, then I have a link next to it. If I just click on that link, it will open the invoices from this vendor which are pending. I can quickly check if any of them are duplicate out here, and no, right now there are none. Let me take you further into this same thing. So I can also see the scanned copy of the invoice. I can go into the my invoice screen itself out here. There's this interesting thing called query. So an invoice comes to you, you want to know, hey, can you attach this, or what happened to that particular thing? You don't go out of the system, write an email, you do it here, and this is all auditable, which is available to you. You get the approval history. The checklist which I was talking to you is put in out here, and you will know who are the other people who are going to be approving it. So the whole process for you becomes very easy, and for you to go ahead and do it. Since this is a quick thing, the last aspect that I'm going to show is just some reports which you would find interesting. So I've gone into, for those of you who didn't see, I clicked on the CXO dashboard here, and that's when I have come to this particular one here, which I'm going to, we are going to look at. So this is the spend reduction one that I'm looking at, and then I want to do monthly trend analysis. So I go to monthly trend analysis. It says, do you want item wise or vendor wise? I say vendor wise. I can select my vendor for whom I want to do it, and I say generate a chart. So the information can be graphical, can be something which is also visible to you as a, I say just quickly go back. There's some very interesting reports which only a spend management system will give you. You saw the monthly trend analysis. There is also top 25 spend reports. Which are your top 25 areas of spend? Who are your top 25 spenders? Let me just briefly try and show you the top 25 spend report. And you can see this is a do-it-yourself report. You can decide which columns to add, which are the columns you want to go ahead and remove from this one out here. That is all possible for you to go ahead and do it. You can group by a particular this thing, like you could go and group it by location if you wanted, and you say generate report. And the system is generating a report for you, which is giving you details, because of what you had asked for. It is giving you totals at each one of this. You could choose your columns. You could choose if you want to export this out to Excel for further analysis, or like a Word or PDF document, you want to print it out. It's all available to you right here. Right. So what I'm going to do now, the last part before we finish this is, I mentioned how auditing and governance is very important for people. So I'm going to show you something which is called as a linked view. Yeah. And what we are going to do is we are going to select one voucher, one PR, and see what the diagram of that looks like. Yeah. Now, this is a link diagram. It is telling you that against this PR, there were 4 POs, out of which this one got rejected.
Sorry to interrupt. Just got 5 more minutes.
Okay. I'm just, yeah, we are on the last part. Yeah. So, which this one has got rejected. You can go here and it is telling you, yeah, this one is the status is approved. This one, which is in yellow, is pending at business level. You can do it. You can collapse something. You can expand something if you want. If there was something available out here, you can click on one of them. You want to know what happened to this one out here. You can go and click on it and it will open that particular document, whichever you have clicked on out here. So all of those things are available to you. Analytics, like I said, is a very important part of what is provided as part of the entire process that we do. And this was, like a quick demo of it. Thanks. I'll pass this back to Dipesh now for him to continue. We have about 5 minutes to go. So yeah, Dipesh, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Shabbir. That was really insightful, and what a great demo that was. The solution looks feature rich and user friendly.
That's the fastest, Dipesh, I've ever done a quick demo, because of the constraint of time. Yeah,
indeed. I'll just share my screen, Shabbir. I'll bring up my screen if you can unshare your screen.
Yeah.
So yeah, just give me a minute. I'm sharing my screen. Great. So we had a great presentation, a very insightful and very great demo. So having said that, time for some interaction. So we shall be putting up a poll question for your quick response post the presentation and demo. I would request you to please kindly respond to that poll question. It is now visible on the screen.
So this is basically so that if any of you want to discuss any of these points further with us, or want us to do a quick assessment of, where you are as an organization, and then we can discuss what are the possibilities going forward, please indicate out here. We'll of course fix up the exact time and all of that in detail, but we would love you to, get in touch with our team and do this. We wanted to use this seminar more to give you an overview, but the detailed discussion can then happen on a one-on-one. And people like Dipesh and Mithilesh, who were there in my slide earlier, they'll be directly involved in this process. Yeah, so go ahead and fill it up, please.
Yeah. So I see the responses coming in. Also, we would be sharing the ebook. Just stay on here. There would be a surprise ebook for you as well. Now we'll go into the Q&A aspect. Time for some Q&A. You can put in your question in the Q&A box, and we'll be taking up that question. So yeah, I see there's one question coming up, Shabbir. So the question is, you mentioned about bad spends and good spends, great in concept, but how do you identify which is which? Is that data or is it just a judgment?
So it definitely is a combination of data and judgment. Yeah, and the reason why I call a judgment is something which is a good spend at one point of time can be a bad spend at another point in time. Yeah, like now that you're going in an investment cycle, you're going to make a lot of investments. Those would not be the kind of spends that you would do just when COVID had struck, when you're unsure of how the organization will go ahead. The important thing from a system point of view is for you to go ahead and understand that does the system allow the right people to be involved in the decision making and approving process for any kind of spend, not just the usual top management, but also experts, domain experts who are there, or people who are involved in those kind of decisions in the past. How do you get them to be involved? That is when that which could have been a bad spend can get prevented, and that which is a good spend can get encouraged.
Great. That's thanks a lot, Shabbir, for that answer. We have more questions coming up. I'll just take one more question since we are running out of time. The other questions we would definitely be coming back to you. We'll be dropping you an email or we'll reach out to you. So final question, Shabbir. As a CFO, I'm watching a lot of dashboards on several dials. Obviously, revenue and profits are high priority, and that's what primary stakeholders are watching. Should I take my eye off these monitor spends closely? Will I be missing opportunities if I do that?
Okay. Very, again, interesting question. This looks like something which has come from a CFO. And unfortunately, none of us are going to be having the luxury of saying, should I do only this or only that? I think the answer today is and fortunately, we have the right kind of tools which are available where you can do that. We recently had a situation in India where one of the largest retailers in India, who was partially bought by Amazon but still went under, because they were completely focused on the top line growth, those kind of things. And they took their eyes off the spend, debt, and the kind of leveraging that they were having. So you no longer have, in a situation where there are growth opportunities, but there are dangers lurking around the corner, and therefore you need to balance both. You will have to look at your top line, your spends, and your profitability, all of them together, and have dashboards which quickly, at a click of a button, allow you to go ahead and do that.
Great. Thanks, Shabir. So we are just on the final leg of the session. Just one more minute. A few things about what expensing is all about. So expensing is a Gartner recognized only software product company with complete spend management suite. We just have one objective: to make spend management easy, effective, and intelligent. As you have also seen, which is showcased by Shabir, the products are very simple setup and very easy to use as well.